Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the channel, Life Odysseys. I'm Bobby. That's Maggie. Yeah, she's a ball of fire this morning. Ain't you, Maggie? Waiting to go for a ride, what it is. Another beautiful morning here in eastern Kentucky. Today we're jumping right into the 1993 Arca season. We finished third in points that year. It's kind of an off year. Started out at Daytona missing a big wreck. I'm going to get into all that here in a minute. So sit back, relax, and I'm going to go grab a seat and let's get into it. Be right back. Alrighty then. Here we are sitting in the shop slash shed. Going to jump right in the review of the 1993 Arca season. It was a year that was kind of off a little bit. We won the championship the year before that, and we was hoping for better things than what really happened. But we'll get into it, and I'll tell you exactly what happened race by race. As usual, I got my notes here because it's just too much to remember. Some things I write down, jog my memory, and it helps me tell the story. So anyways, let's get right into it. So, of course, the year starts out at Daytona in February. It says here on the sheet that we qualified 16th. So we was off a little bit on speed. The race started, and right away we come back by on lap one, and Gary comes on the radio and says, better be careful, be ready, because they're racing awful hard up in the front there. And so I was paying attention, and we come around passing lap two, and he said again, come on the race, I don't know what to tell you. He says, you just better be ready because they're going to crash up front. Well, one thing about Gary was it seemed like he could tell, or, he had a funny feeling about how races was being run and the way other guys was driving on the track. He had a pretty good understanding of that. And I took what he said by his word, because most of the time it panned out to be true. So when he told me that on lap two, so we made it through 1 and 2 all right. We get down 3 and 4, and all hell breaks loose. Wreck happens right up near the front of the field. And I'd probably fallen back, I don't know, 24th, somewhere around in there. So sure enough, they start wrecking in front of me. And I'll throw up a picture here that shows I had no choice. I'm trying to slow up, but also got to be careful I don't get run over. So I'm looking in the mirrors about as much as I am out the front, make sure nobody runs over me, and trying to get slowed up enough. So I dart to the bottom, make my decision, dart to the bottom on the inside, get clear down pretty much in the grass, I think, close to it, and squeak by, and barely got a small crease in the right rear quarter panel from another car, but we squeaked by. So we was running 20th, 20, somewhere around there, going into turn 3, and when we come out, we was running 4th. So we gained all them spots right then, and it took a lot of cars out. So we really didn't have the speed to be competitive. We hung around the 4th, 5th place position all day long. Couldn't really gain anything. And I think Purvis ended up winning the race, but we ended up 5th, which, we missed the big wreck. We survived that, and we come home with a top 5. And like I said before in my other videos, anytime you can go to the gas pumps after a speedway race, you've had a good day. So then we go to Pensacola, Florida. So, Pensacola, there was 1 or 2 races there I ran good, but only all pretty average, really. It says here we qualified 3rd and ended up 10th, And on a side note, Pensacola had a very good go-kart track. We'd go there and race go-karts in the evenings with the crew and other crews. Really had a good time. They also had a good steakhouse too, called Smoking Charlie's, I think it was. It was really good. So then we go to Texas World Speedway. There again, Texas World Speedway was. I loved racing there, but it just no luck. I don't know what to say. But that race, they brought in Darrell Waltrip, Dale Earnhardt, and Ken Schrader to run that race. Plus, it was also with the Winston West guys would come and run that race in the Arca deal. It says here we started 30th, ended up 12th. So if you go off of that, looked like we finished fairly well. But there again, just no luck there for some reason. Then we go to Talladega where we have decent runs. It says here we qualified 12th and ended up 7th, which, I consider that a good day. Not much really to tell about that race other than, we finished. That was the main thing, and come home with a top 10. Then we go to Killcare. And in my notes here, it says this is the debut of the Ford V6. Before, we'd been running Pontiac and had the V6, and we had a V8 for that car too. But then on the Fords, we'd just solely had a V8 engine, but this would be the first time that we run a V6. And it didn't really start out too good. It says here we qualified 7th and ended up 21st. We had overheating problems due to the fan malfunctioning, the electric fan malfunctioning on the radiator. So that's what kind of did our day in there. If I remember right, I didn't look at the dates on here, but we went and ran Columbus, Ohio. May have been the next day. If it wasn't, it was 2 days. I can't remember. But we ended up running the V8 car there instead of the V6 because not knowing what was happening with the V6 car and the cooling. It says here we started 8th and ended up 3rd, which I consider that a solid day. That was a solid day for us at Columbus. Sure, you'd like to do better, but third was good. Then we go to Flat Rock. It says here we qualified 12th and ended up 10th. There again, this had to be with the V6 Ford. We just wasn't quite getting the bugs, out of the car or the engine quite fast enough. But we ended up getting it going. Then it says we went to Toledo. So there again, Toledo, good racetrack for us. I had 5 wins at Toledo, and today was the same. We started 3rd and ended up winning the race. Oh, I love racing at Toledo. Toledo is a very good track. Then it says we go to Pocono. Qualified 11th and ended up 9th. There you go, an average a day at Pocono again. I know I probably keep saying the same thing, but it was just an average day. Top 10 finish, but just an average day. Then we go to Michigan, and it says here we qualified 10th and ended up 13th. So I got it written down here that we led 13 laps, which, we've been running better at those places, but our finish just doesn't show it. But we turn things around a little bit on those places, but we'll get into that later. Then we go to Flat Rock. It says qualified 5th and ended up 4th. So much better finish from the last Flat Rock, and seems to be getting better with the V6 car. Then we go back to Pocono. Qualified 10th, ended up 36th. We had an engine problem, and that was the deal with 93. We had 4 engine failures during the year. I don't know what to say. When you're not doing your own deal and you're relying on somebody else, that's the predicament you get yourself into. Yeah, we couldn't do the engines ourselves, but we should have thought of that earlier on and made plans for us to do our own engines, because I think the outcome and all that would have been a lot better. Plus, when you had an engine issue, you would know exactly what happened to it and what you need to do to fix it, as opposed to hearing it from somebody else and you take their word for it. Then we go back to Killcare. And this is with the V6 Ford. It says here we qualified on the pole and we ended up 4th. So yeah, we're getting better with the V6 Ford. I remember the V6 Ford. What the key to that engine was, you had to keep her wound up all the time. That thing had to scream all the time in order to make any power. Then it says here we go to Springfield. Looks to me like we had an off day at Springfield in '93. Qualified 18th and ended up 9th. Yeah, I guess some days you'll just have those days sometimes, but not our typical finish at Springfield, and that was on the mild dirt. Then we go to DuQuoin. It says here qualified second, ended up 28th. And if I remember, I was sitting on the front row with Jeremy Mayfield. It says here we led the first 37 laps, but then had an engine failure. So there again, engine failure. Especially, I know you can't go forever without engine failures, but sometimes it seemed like we had a lot of them. Then we go back to Toledo. Qualified second and finished second. I mean, very consistent finishes at Toledo. And it says here we led the first 47 laps. But yeah, another consistent day at Toledo, which, is one of my favorite tracks. Then we go to Salem. It says here we qualified 4th and ended up 21st. And I got written down engine issues. So more engine issues. Not good. Then we go to Winchester. Qualified 6th and ended up 2nd. We got beat by Tim Steele that day, and we fell 2 laps behind early in the race, had to come in and change a tire. And I made up both those laps and was catching Tim right at the end. If we'd had another 2 laps, I think we'd have got him, but that's the way it goes. But we was hauling the mail. After we come in and changed them tires, we was hauling the mail afterwards. We was the fastest car on the track pretty much all the time. Then we go to Atlanta. It says here we started 18th, ended up 37th, and you guessed it, another engine failure. So yeah, finishing the year up at Atlanta with an engine failure, you kind of think, but I'm glad this year's over. But it says here, we had 7 top 5s and 12 top 10s during the season, which, doesn't sound too bad. But the DNFs is what kill you as far as the championship goes, and, doing well in the points. And like I said, we ended up 3rd. Steele won the championship. Bob Keselowski finished 2nd. We ended up 3rd. So 1993 wasn't our best year. Maybe it's just, after we won the championship in '92, maybe we expected too much. But yeah, it was just kind of an off year for us. Other than that, that's about it for the '93 season. The debut of the V6 engine, it panned out to be a good deal. The V6 liked running the real short tracks like the quarter miles and the Kilcares and places like that. But you had to keep it wound up. That was the key with that engine. You had to keep it wound up. So on that, I think that'll do it for this episode. Be sure to subscribe, like, share, and please leave a comment. It's really appreciated. And help make my channel grow if you subscribe and like and share. So until next time, Maggie, let's walk out here. You gonna say something before we leave? Huh? Say hi. Say hi, everybody. Yeah. All right, folks. Until next time, I'm Bobby. That's Maggie. And we'll see you on the next one. So have a good day, and I'll talk to you soon.